More excitement! Another review thing has come from the lovely people at Banggood. I told them I thought brushless micros were something that might be very big this year. So they've ended up sending me one of these Aurora 100s, which is a 100mm brushless micro quad, which I'm pretty excited to test because I've been messing around with brushed micros for a while now, and I still enjoy those and seeing exactly what I can get out of them. But this should step it up to a whole nother level of power. So I thought, let's quickly see what's in the box, because there's not that much to look at. Inside, first off, a manual. And I must just mention this because most of the time we're like, oh, it doesn't have a manual, or the manual is poor because it's badly translated. This is genuinely a really good manual. Inside there is well written instructions. It's fully colour, pictures all throughout, explaining how everything goes together, how you set up your radio, if you happen to reflash Betaflight, what you need to do to put the right settings in. Well done, Iashi. This is really good. This is the best manual I've seen so far in anything FPV. Elsewhere in the box, we have a little screwdriver and an Allen key, a couple of bits of Velcro, some spare props, little 4-bladed ones, and some screws, another piece of Velcro. The reason we got the Velcro is it will attach to this lipo. This is quite chunky lipo. It's only a 450 milliamp 2-cell, but it says it's an 80C battery, so it's quite impressive. You also get a couple of these little rubber bands, which I'm guessing help keep the battery on, although there's this little Velcro strap as well, which probably does the same thing. We've then got, and it's nicely moulded box here, so you can quite happily carry that around safely, the little quad itself, which is super cute. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Dee's used a little 1104 7500 kV. Great things here. We've got a nice little bit of tilt on the camera. You just get in closer there. We've got an integrated beeper, which is very important. Some lights at the back, which is great. Really looking forward to getting this in here. One thing I think needs an instant change though is if we look at this antenna, it's just hanging about. I mean, that's just asking to get chopped up, isn't it? So we need to support that with something, have that actually going in the air so it's not going to get chopped. A bit of heat shrink or something, or just get it out of the way. So my idea here to give a nice review, as this is like a bind and fly quad, is to not fiddle with the setup. I need to change the channel order because looking in the manual that's wrong. I'll do that in Betaflight, but I want to fly it as it is before I start tweaking it. So come with me and we'll do a little bit of config, charge up the battery, and let's see what happens. Even on a bind and fly, there's still a little bit of work to do. And as I mentioned, I had to change the channel order here from TAER to AETR. While I was there, I also sorted out the sub-trims and endpoint on all the channels so they were in the right place that Betaflight likes. And I also changed the modes. This is the default mode it came with. Nothing particularly wrong with it, but all my quads set up the same, which look like this, so I changed it over to this. If the arm and air mode looks a little bit weird, by the way, I've got a logical switch set on the Tyrannus, which means you can't activate air mode without arming being on as well. With that set, I tucked the antenna just into the battery strap and took it outside for a line of sight hover. And the nicest thing to report about this initial hover is basically it was just stress-free. It just hovered nicely on the default settings. It's running D-Shot 600, so I was expecting some great things from it, and it got that. What was fantastic about this was the power. A little blip on the throttle and it's up in the air. And it's hard to remember that this is just a 2S battery. It feels like, you know, 3S from the sort of power response you get. It was tricky to know if this needed some tuning.
it was quite a windy day, so it was giving the sort of little chirps that you'd expect from the motors as it's kind of fighting against the wind to retain its attitude. I'll really only get a better picture of that when I FPV it. But yeah, from point of view of this little garden test, I was very pleased. The lipo as well lasted for just 5 minutes here. And this is not really typical flying, so I think more 3 to 4 on normal flight. What was interesting though, it didn't have any sort of power sag. It was good and talky and really responsive up until the fact that the beeper started going off and I landed.
Okay, so the problem of the antenna flying around. The good old zip tie or cable tie comes to our rescue again. What I've done here is I've just gone ahead and put this little one around this back section here with this little piece of heat shrink over the antenna. I haven't even heat shrink this on because I don't need to. The reason why I didn't heat shrink this on, apart from the fact it's reasonably tight, is just in case I wanted to go into the box. Of course the box doesn't allow a big thing here, and I didn't know if I was bending it if that was going to stay there, so I thought having this available just to slip on and off means I can just snip that away and put a new one on if I need to. But in terms of flexibility, it's flexible, but I think you'd have to work really hard to try and get that into the prop, so I'm pretty happy that's going to stay in place and stop it getting chopped. I think yellow's quite a cool colour for it too. One thing you might not have seen in the garden video is the little cool LED, which does all sorts of colours depending on your manoeuvre, and this interesting Knight Rider type effect. For you young people, Knight Rider was a TV programme in the 80s. Look, I know I said I wasn't going to touch it, but this artificial horizon and these little things up the side really wind me up. There's too much of a delay, and I've never understood it in quads. So I'm just going to remove that, and I'll leave the rest as it is, okay? So the rest will be out of the box. So a really nice feature of this quad is the flight controller and OSD links directly into Betaflight. So you don't need to do anything particularly difficult to change the OSD setup. You just go into the Betaflight configurator, into the OSD tab, and you take out what you don't need, which for me is the crosshairs, artificial horizon, the horizon sliders, and save that. Okay, I'll leave the rest as is, and let's try an FPV flight now. Well, less than perfect conditions. What was feeling like a pretty good day about 10 minutes ago, it feels like a storm's just about to hit us. Let's just see if we can get this thing flew. You don't get the chances up here, so I'll take what I can get. Did I mention it was a touch windy? Yep, not the ideal conditions to maiden a tiny little 100mm quad, but interesting all the same. Now what we can see instantly from this is the camera and how it handles not great light. As per usual, these tiny little cameras are the normal CMOS sensors, and it just is what it is. It doesn't do a bad job, but obviously it's nothing like the big CCD sensors you'd get on things like run cams and stuff. On a nice sunny day it'll look pretty nice, but yeah, this is quite hard going for this little camera. Now I'd kind of hit what I thought was bits of rain, although looking back at some of the footage I think it was things pelting me from the tree. So after a while I decided it wasn't raining, popped out again because I hadn't done any flips and rolls and I wanted to test the speed. These are the out of the box PIDs. And what I'm amazed at here, and you can see how windy the day is how smooth this is managing to fly in these conditions. I mean, take a look at the branches swaying around. And so yeah, so it flies around nicely and it handles beautifully. No problems doing flips and rolls. I'm actually going to go back and tweak the curves because they're a little bit slow for me. They just need to be a little bit faster. But that's easy to take care of. But yeah, I mean, I actually thought, oh, this is no good, this footage is going to be terrible, there's no point in doing this, I have to wait for another day. But given just how windy it was, and oh, it was horrible, and the size of this, yet the stability that this is managing to do in these sort of conditions, I'm actually a little bit wowed by it. Now I only had that one battery
and I managed to fly it for just about 3.5 minutes before I noticed the voltage was going down to about 6.7. Again, couldn't feel any problems with it, but I didn't want to take it obviously below something like 6.6, so down I go.
So that is the Eachine Aurora 100, and it's now my new favourite thing. Yeah, I really love that. This didn't feel like a micro. It just felt like flying a regular 4S quad that had been shrunk down. Hard to believe this is flying on 2S. It just didn't lack for power. I mean, yeah, I only had the one flight from it, but in those conditions to get that sort of performance, I was very impressed. A couple of small niggles though. I mean, let's go through the goods and the bads here. What I found really fantastic about it is how well it's put together. If you look, it's just a stack. It's an all-in-one ESC, flight controller, receiver, all in that very neat little stack. And of course the instructions are very good and tell you how it goes together. The inclusion of the beeper and the lights is so useful because you can see how big this thing is. If that goes down in regular grass, you will have a hard time finding it, and this is why these are so important. I also like the useful camera angle here. I mean, it's pretty wide angle, but having just a little bit of up angle is really going to help on those high speed things. So niggle wise, there's just a couple. The camera, once again, CMOS sensor, so it's going to struggle in bad light. If the sun's going to be low in the sky, you're probably going to get darkness on the ground. If it's a grey day like it was today, it's going to look a bit, well, a bit rubbish. But if it's a lovely sunny day, it's going to look good. I mean, can't do much about this at the moment. They're just not making CCD sensors that small right now. The antenna wire could have been a little bit thought out. I mean, I've put this thing in and it works great, but it means I can't easily put it in the box without removing that. It'd be nice to think they could engineer something for that one. That would be great. And finally, and I'm really nitpicking here, it's the Velcro. The Velcro here, the way it fits, it goes over these screws, so it doesn't really get a good purchase there. And ditto, because the battery is quite big, that has to sit on top of the screws. The only thing I've got when I'm peeling this off is the Velcro is coming off the cord and off the battery at the same time. And I do like to have Velcro because that locks it in, the strap goes round and locks it in more. And in all my quads, it's very rare that I have a battery disconnect. Certainly I don't have batteries flying off anywhere. And again, that's really important to try and keep the battery connected if you crash and you want to be able to find it again with the beeper. But all in all, you know, I'm in love. This is lovely. I'm loving the way it flies, and I'm going to go and get some more footage from it, so look out on upcoming videos. Unfortunately right now I've only got the one battery and Banggood seem to be out of stock of them, so I'll have to try and get some more, and I'll test a few 2S's I've got with it and see how it goes. But nothing I've got is approaching this ATC, if that's a true measure, but I'll see how they do. Anyway, look out for more. This is the Eachine Aurora 100. Links, of course, are below if you want to check it out yourself. And I will see you next time. Bye.